Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Polymath Developer Town Hall. So today we're going to be talking about two big announcements, the Polymath Core version 1.30, our mainnet release, and the official launch of our dApp. So before we get started, I want to introduce everyone here. So I'm just going to introduce myself if you are new to the webinar. I'm Charles. I'm Polymath's open source developer community manager. And here with me, I have Pablo, the VP of Engineering, Stefan, Solidity Developer, Adam Dossa, the Senior Solidity Developer. And joining us shortly, we will have a guest attendee for today, our CPO, Thomas Borrell, who will be displaying our beautiful dApp later on. So just to go over the agenda for today, we're going to start with talking about the Polymath Core version mainnet release. So Pablo will be talking about the new features and updates. Adam's going to be talking about the updates and fixes from our audit. And then Stefan will come in and talk about the security token standard we've been working on. After that, we'll be going into the Polymath dApp launch. So Thomas is going to walk us all through an STO process on the dApp. And lastly, I'll be talking about what Mainnet means for us and external developers interacting with the Polymath code. So to get started, I'd love Pablo to step forward and talk about the new features and updates.
Thank you, Charles. Hello, everyone. So in terms of our 1.3.0 release, that was done like exactly 2 weeks ago. We released 1.3.0 to both testnet on Koban and on Mainnet. That was officially our new mainnet release. In terms of new features, we didn't add many new features at all. At least not many new features that are worth mentioning here, because mostly 1.3.0 was all about preparing for mainnet. So during that time, most of our focus was on basically getting the code externally audited. That's what we had solidified for. They did an audit on our code, and Adam will give us more details about that in a few seconds. The next thing that we did on 1.3.0 was increasing our test coverage. Right now we are over 90% with more than 400 test cases and counting. The other thing that we did on 1.3 was improving some of the logic to make it easier for us to upgrade our smart contract registry system in the future as we develop new features. And the last thing that we did is we built a more robust command line interface, so we can manually test our issuance workflow and have even our issuers do use that CLI to test their own issuances before they go live. And I would say that's the most important thing that we did on 1.3, basically getting our new smart contracts on Mainnet. Right now, we are working to release a 1.4 version on testnet, which will bring a new STO model, which will allow issuers to raise ETH or Polypeg to USD. That's already on our repository right now. So if you check our repo, you will see this new STO model, which will go over in the next town hall meeting in the next few weeks. For this, we are also using two oracles that we developed. One is fetching the ETH price from MakerDAO, and the other one that we developed in-house is fetching the Poly price from CoinMarketCap right now. So we expect this contract to hit testnet in next week and mainnet in a few weeks after we have fully tested them on testnet. So that's pretty much it. What's going on the dev side.
Yeah, so I can pick up and talk a little bit about the audit process that we went through. So obviously, kind of auditing code and bug bounties is kind of very important, obviously for on-chain code. especially code which holds value, such as STOs. So we've had a public bug bounty running for a number of months now, so that's kind of been going on. And then to kind of complement that, once we'd finalized our kind of mainnet release candidate, we took out 2 separate security audits. The first was from a company called Coin Mercenary, and the second was from a company called Solidified. Solidified's security audit, kind of internally, they use 3 separate auditors to review the code independently, and then kind of consolidate that to create one consolidated report. So, in some sense, we had kind of 4 auditors going through the code from 2 separate companies. So we went through that audit process, obviously received back the reports from both those companies. There were some kind of issues identified in the code, nothing which was kind of super critical or kind of invalidated any overall architecture. So they're all relatively easy kind of fixes. And we, particularly with Solidified, there was kind of a back and forth process where we discussed the issues with Solidified, identified fixes, obviously implemented the fixes, and then Solidified re-audit the code. So Solidified kind of gave us the final sign off on our mainnet kind of release candidate code, including the USD pegged STO that Pablo mentioned previously, and the oracles which Pablo just mentioned. So we received that sign off yesterday or over the weekend. And so that's good. So that kind of concludes our audit kind of process on this set of code, on this kind of mainnet release candidate. So beyond that, I think we've been working, so as well as the bug bounty and the security audits, we also have extensive unit test cases built in the Truffle framework. I think we ran test coverage over the weekend, and we're at around kind of an average number of around 95% coverage, which is very good. But we're kind of keeping that under review and just making sure that that test coverage remains high as we continue to develop the code. So I think that's pretty much kind of concludes the audit update.
Thanks, Adam. I just want to say before Stefan kind of jumps in that for all the webinar attendees, feel free to ask questions throughout the entire town hall, especially during Thomas's kind of walkthrough. It's just on the GoToWebinar control panel, so just submit questions there and we'll try to get to them. Stefan.
Thanks, Charles. So I'm going to talk about EIPs. Some of you might have heard that we've been working internally on developing a security token standard. So I want to give a bit of clarity and context around what is our thinking behind that, our motivation, and what's our progress. We realized as we were starting to develop a platform that replicating regulatory compliance on chain is non-trivial. And there's been various different teams that have taken different approaches to this problem. And kind of what this results is that every team is speaking somewhat of a different language with a different implementation. And this makes it very difficult to integrate as an ecosystem with exchanges to have shared liquidity, or with wallets to have an integrated approach to showing security tokens. What we realized is one of the reasons why ERC20s as a standard has become so widely adopted is that it's very easy for people to build on top of it. Everyone is speaking the same language. Everyone knows what an ERC20 represents. And this is the goal that we want to have with security tokens. We want everyone to be speaking the same language, to implement the same standard and move forward with that. So what we've done, the step that we've taken is we've gathered a lot of ecosystem partners together at a roundtable in mid-July. Adam put a great summary of what this roundtable achieved on our Medium, so you can go check that out. But we had regulators, we had lawyers, we had KYC providers, we had transfer agents, brokers, exchanges, alternative trading systems, issuers. So we really had every kind of piece of the puzzle together around a single table to try to say what are the requirements to go into building a successful security token standard. So we took all that information back with us, and we've been drafting, kind of getting to publish something publicly And our design approach has been taken to separate the standard into two different standards. One of the large amount of feedback that we got from this roundtable was that it's very difficult to model security tokens as always being fungible because of the transfer restrictions that are applied on various different tokens. It actually ends up requiring a mix between fungible and non-fungible tokens. So the first part of our EIP proposal is going to be a partially fungible token, which is kind of a modified ERC777 interface. And then the second part of our proposal is the security token standard itself with the transfer restrictions. Some other items that we considered in our design process were how to represent on-chain and off-chain transfer restrictions inside the standard, and also how to represent KYC and identity in a way that's agnostic to any implementation. So we actually want to be able to support as wide as possible of implementation. So someone that has nothing to do with Polymath would still prefer using the security token standard because it allows them to integrate with so many different ecosystem partners. So we also want to be regulatory agnostic. So we want to be able to let people issue tokens in North America, Europe, Asia, Antarctica, if someone wants to do it really. So that has been our approach. So far, we've made really good progress, and we look forward to sharing more details on the next call.
Awesome, thanks, Stefan. Now for Thomas, I'll introduce him again. He's our Chief Product Officer here at Polymath, and he's going to walk us through what an STO looks like on the dApp. Floor is yours, Thomas.
All right, thank you. Thanks, everyone. So let me share my screen. Actually, I need, so there we go. All right, so you should all start seeing my screen any second now. I have to apologize first. My internet connection is a little slow. So if there's some issues with refreshes, then let me know. All right, so what we're going to look at is the dApp. A dApp is live on Mainnet. It's been on Kovan for about 3 months now. The official launch to testnet was done at Consensus, so that would have been mid-May, and we've been now live on Mainnet for a couple of weeks. And so the design. The reason for the design behind the dApp was essentially to make the smart contracts accessible to everyone, make give the ability to create security tokens and schedule STOs for everyone. But what we've recognized as well is that creating a token is only one part of the puzzle. If I want to do a fundraise, if I want to issue a security as a company, I'm going to need to get some help from other organizations. I'm going to need a whole ecosystem to rally around me to help me go through my issuance. And so the whole design goal with the dApp was to tackle both these things. One, make the smart contracts available to everyone, easy to provision, easy to access, and second, a clean access to an ecosystem that allows me as an issuer to create my token, schedule my STO, and run my STO. And so that's what we're going to be covering now. So the dApp is on tokenstudio.polymath.network, and you can access it both on the mainnet as well as Kovan. So when I connect in for the first time, you'll realize that I actually don't need to create a username or password for the dApp. You know, what we figured is you already have your own wallet, you already have MetaMask that's running. And so as a result, why have you memorize yet another password when your wallet itself provides sufficient security for you to access the platform? So all you have to do at the very beginning is just sign a transaction to get in. So the first operation that I do as an issuer, I'm going to reserve a token symbol. And so I can pick any token symbol that I want, provided that it hasn't been used by anybody else. We made the conscious design decision to have every token symbol unique when created on our platform, not necessarily for the initial issuance, but more for everything that has to do with secondary trades, whether they are wallet to wallet or through an exchange. And so by ensuring that every security token created on our platform has a unique token symbol, then we make it easier for investors to differentiate between a Series A, a Series B, etc., from the same company. So here we're going to create one token symbol called the town hall token symbol. So we're going to go ahead and reserve that token symbol. And this is going to drive two operations behind the scene. One is the poly payment for the use of the smart contract, and the second one is going to be the mining of the actual reservation of the token symbol. So while MetaMask runs and wakes up, here we go. And so with that, we're effectively gonna reserve the ticker symbol. That's gonna conclude the first step of going through the dApp. Once my ticker symbol is reserved, it is mine for 60 days on Mainnet, and during those 60 days, I have time to engage with the ecosystem, with the advisors, with the lawyers, etc., to find out more about how I should be structuring my token. When I have that information on how my token can be structured, I can then move on to the next stage of the dApp, which we're going to cover in a few minutes, which is effectively creating my token with the right properties that I'm going to set through the dApp. So here we go. My poly spent was approved. I'm now gonna reserve the token symbol. As you can tell, I don't know if you guys are experiencing this as well, but I've seen MetaMask run a little slow lately, particularly since the upgrade to the newest release. But let's keep on that rolling. Just as a side note, this was designed to be very simple for non-technical people. If you want to follow up on the different transactions, here every time a transaction gets done, you have a link to Etherscan where you can go track that operation. We also can send you information about that transaction via email as well if needed. All right, so here we go. I've got my two operations that I've done. So now the town hall token symbol has been reserved and it is mine. If I were on Mainnet, it would be mine for 60 days. On testnet, it is mine for 15 days, as you can tell from the countdown here. So now as an issuer, I've reserved my ticker symbol. The next thing that I want to do is make sure that I have the right people around me to help me be successful with my fundraise, because that's ultimately why I'm issuing a security token, is I want to issue that security into the market, raise some funds with it, and then return some value back into my investors. So with this, we have advisory, legal, KYC, ML, marketing, and custody services, service providers that can be contacted directly through the dApp. So I can pick, some advisory firms. I can select whichever ones I want. I can pick them all and say apply to selected. Just fill in the information on my company. If I can still type, here we go, town hall company. Town hall. Let's say I'm in Canada. Because I want to make sure that my my partners know whether or not to engage with me and have sufficient information to make that decision, I can share with them information on the project, what I'm looking to tokenize, information about the team, board members, etc. And I really cannot type today, board members, project structure, or the organization. Share that using any file sharing system. So we as Polymath don't store any of these files. All we do is pass the links over to the companies that the issuers have applied, and then the issuer can themselves control who gets to access these files, whether they're password protected, if they're going to be there indefinitely or for a short period of time. So here I've applied to advisors. Maybe for legal, I can say I have my own. For KYC, I can decide that I'm going to apply here with one of our partners, Catapult. Same information is populated. That comes straight from the browser's cache. We don't store anything on our servers. So if I wipe the cache on my computer, everything is gone. So I've engaged with advisors, I've engaged with law firms, or I use my own general counsel, asked them a few questions. I think now I'm ready to go to the next step, which is creating my security token. And so that security token can have multiple properties. It can be divisible or indivisible if I'm looking at a share, if I'm looking at a bond. If it is going to be a restricted security, I would include a legend that indicates that it is a restricted security, the restrictions around that security as well. And I can also augment my token with additional transfer restrictions over and above the general transfer manager that controls the buying and selling of that token through a whitelist, so initial acquisition and ongoing sales on secondary trades. I can augment that with a maximum number of investors. There's some interesting regulations there that we were looking to tackle, as I'm sure you guys are all familiar with. That in the US, if you have 2,000 investors, you are a reporting company. In Canada, it's 50. Every regulation has its own number, and so instead of imposing upon the issuer to count how many investors they have and make sure that they do this in an honest and transparent way, the issuer can implement that directly within the token. And so now I've put a maximum number of investors at 1,999, which means as my token starts trading, every trade, the token is going to look at the number of investors, make sure that whatever trade is about to happen would not make that number cross the line and go above 1,999. If it does, the transaction will get blocked. If it doesn't, the transaction will happen. And what I mean by the transaction being blocked is the transaction is actually going to get reverted, so the funds will go back in their respective wallets, and the users will be able to move on to other things without having to worry about lost funds. So here I have my Polyspent was approved. The next thing I'm doing now is creating my security token. And once my security token has been created, the dApp will automatically add the relevant transfer manager that controls that limits the number of investors, controls the maximum number of investors. So all these operations require mining, which is why it's taking a little bit of time. Here we go. All right, so now we are creating the token, and then we'll go into the attaching of the module. The module to limit the number of investors can be attached at the initial time of creation of the token, or it can be attached subsequently by going back into the token screen. One thing that we always want the issuers and want to make sure they think about is, as you do that, if you set it to a number that is higher than the number of investors that you currently have on your token, then only transactions that would result in a reduction of the number of investors are going to be allowed, right? So it's something that needs to be carefully thought through, and usually it's part of the initial dialogue that happens between the issuers and their general counsel or their advisors around how they actually are going to be structuring their offering. All right, so let's conclude the last one. Cool.
While it loads, there was one question while you were going through the provider, and someone asked, how do we apply to be a provider, or how do you become a provider?
Yeah, so great question. So today, what we have is a process where you can reach out to us directly and indicate your desire to apply for being a provider. That means you're going to get connected with our business development team. They're going to walk you through, the contracts, etc., and then you can get added to the dApp. What we're looking to do at some point is have this as a more automated. But for now, on the early onset of the dApp, you just reach out to us through our website, through our support site as well, and we'll connect you directly with the business development team that will walk you through the process.
There was also one other question that I tried to respond to, but I'm not quite sure if it did. And I think Stefan could answer it quite well. So the person asked, can you explain a little more about the fungible versus non-fungible parts of a security token?
Yeah, sure. I'll take a crack at it. So the challenge with keeping a security token fully fungible is that there's actually transfer restrictions that depend on who the owner of the token is. So the identity of the token holder has an impact on who they're able to transact with, and this is not possible to represent just with a simple fungible token. At least it becomes very complicated and very difficult to do. One of the restrictions that we have to work with is that it has to be easy to query what are the transfer restrictions that are on a specific asset, and being able to have that metadata, right, about the security token is something that is a lot more similar to non-fungible token design. And so therefore the approach that we've taken and that we think works best in this case is a mix of both. So we haven't released the spec yet, but you can expect to see more about the spec in the coming weeks.
Thanks. Now Thomas can kind of finalize the
Sure.
walkthrough. Cut him off.
No, that's fine. That's fine. We had to give time for the miners to do their thing. So now I have my security token. It exists. I can get its address there. The token issuance transaction is here. So I can add my token to MetaMask, for example, to start counting how many of those I have. What I can do next as an operation is I can start minting tokens. So if I have a reserve, existing investors here we go. Existing investors in my company, perhaps I want to mint some for us as affiliates. I can upload a CSV to mint tokens, and so that CSV has to have a particular structure. We provide a sample file here. But it essentially needs to contain the Ether address of the different wallets where I want the tokens minted, the buy and sell restrictions, because let's not forget that we're dealing with securities, and so they're going to have buy and sell restrictions, as well as the KYC AML expiry date, and a number of tokens that need to be minted for each address. So here, for instance, my address is in that file. If I look at MetaMask right now, I should see the town hall token somewhere on the list. Eventually, when it pops, there we go. So I have 0 town hall tokens. But if I upload the spreadsheet and hit mint, so I had one error in that sheet. There was one line that wasn't recognized as having, the right information. So it's just going to get bypassed. And so the dApp will automatically conduct the 2 transactions that are necessary for me to move forward, which is 1, make sure that all the addresses in the spreadsheet are being whitelisted, And second, once all those addresses are being whitelisted, which means they can hold the token, they can buy the token, sell the token, and they have their own trading restrictions associated, then those tokens are going to get minted to each individual wallet address. So my existing shareholders, my affiliates, my reserve will have all the tokens that it needs based on how I've structured my offering, right? So if I had, I said 100 million tokens is going to represent 100% of my company. I want to keep, 51% in reserve. I'm going to take, whatever, 20% of that for my investors, and then put the rest up for sale as part of my fundraise. Then I can start minting all these tokens to have a clear and transparent total available supply that which will show the 70 million tokens in existence that went between the reserve and my shareholders, and the 30 that are up for sale that, as you guys know, get minted through the STO smart contract as those tokens are sold. So now that the whitelist has been updated, and here's same thing, I have, for every transaction that took place, I have access to the TX hash, so I can go take a look at it in the Kovan Etherscan, or I can move on to the next operation, which is once the whitelisting is done, will be the minting. To give everyone sort of a high level view of what that list looks like while the miners are doing their thing, I'll just open the there we go. I'll just open the file that we use, which is this one, the minting metamask.csv. Looks like now all the elements are stacking. Now even the computer's deciding not to do anything. Here we go. There we go. So you got the ETH address, the buy lockup, sell lockup, KYC, ML expiry, and here I've minted. So the top one is my address, my test address, and I've minted 1 million tokens into that wallet. So if I go back to the dApp here, make sure that the minting of tokens, the transaction to mint the tokens, has been approved in MetaMask. Then within a minute or so, there you go, I can see one outstanding transaction. Within a minute or so, I should have the tokens in my wallet, which means that the number of tokens that I had displayed previously in my MetaMask should go from a 0 to a 1 million. Oh, there it is. Come on, MetaMask. Whenever you're ready. All right, so while we wait for MetaMask to load, are there any other questions that have popped on the chat? Looks like I'm about to be able to approve that transaction.
There was one question a little unrelated, but they were asking why Polymath is using Ethereum over creating their own blockchain.
Yeah, so that's actually a great question. It goes back to the whole ecosystem we were talking about a moment ago of being able to get custody of my tokens, being able to get the right wallets. Another big factor too is if I issue a security, I want to make sure that I'm able to trade that security. And so a critical part of the ecosystem are the exchanges. And we've been working very closely with several of them. One that we've been working on quite a lot is Open Finance. They're live now, and their the security token listing document actually lists ST20 as an approved standard, so a token format that they can trade right away. So, when you think about picking a chain for security token, we could we look at other chains and say they're going to give us greater velocity, faster rate of transactions, things like that? Yes, we could, but we also need to take into consideration the fact that issuers want to issue their securities for the purpose of them being tradable, for the purpose of their own investors to gain liquidity. And so it takes a whole ecosystem for that to happen, wallets, custody, exchanges, etc. And so we decided to use the Ethereum blockchain for this because it gave us access to a significantly broader ecosystem than building our own chain and then bringing everyone on board. All right, so I've minted my tokens. That operation is now complete. I can move on to the next step, which would be the scheduling and the configuration and scheduling of my STO. Just real quick, let's see if we can get MetaMask to open a little faster this time, because it hasn't been that great so far. If I go look at my tokens, my town hall token, now I have 1 million town hall tokens. So all those tokens have been minted, whether that represented my reserve or anything else, it's done. And so I'm now ready to start scheduling my STO. It's going to start, tomorrow. It's going to last 2 weeks. It's going to start tomorrow at, 6 a.m., wrap up in 2 weeks at 6 a.m. as well. I can decide if I want to do my raise in ETH or in Poly. Let's say I'm going to raise in Poly. I'm going to sell 100 million tokens at a rate of 10. Don't need to make complex calculation. Let's say I'm going to do 10 tokens for every Poly that I receive, and the funds will be sent to my wallet. So I can input whatever wallet that I want to use, hardware wallet, or what is more likely, which is a custodied wallet that will allow me to secure the funds that I'm raising. So here, with the STO, the way I have programmed it, I'm going to raise up to 10 million polys at a rate of 1 poly sending back 10 tokens. So I'm gonna use 100 million tokens as my hard cap. So I've verified all the information related to my STO. Maybe I seeked counsel from my advisors or my legal counsel. I'm now ready to go, and I can create the STO, so approve the Polyspend to use the STO factory, and then deploy and schedule my STO based on the information that I've just supplied. Once that step is done, I will have an STO starting on the 15th of August. That's going to last 2 weeks. So at 6 a.m. tomorrow, we'll be able to send Poly tokens to the smart contract address, which we will see when both operations are concluded. And all the funds being raised are going to get directed into my custodied account or into my hardware wallet as they get received. So here we go. Here's MetaMask. So this is just proving the Polyspend. So you can see it's you're just paying for gas. The deploying and scheduling is when we will actually attach the STO smart contract to the token and then pass all the information to provision that smart contract directly. So all this happens in one singular operation. So while the miners are doing their things, as you have been following us for a while, you're familiar with all the different smart contracts that we have, and so what we've been through right now is effectively go through these smart contracts, provision them, enter the right set of parameters, associate modules to our token, like the maximum number of investors or the STO, or as we'll see, in a moment, we can also attach the percentage transfer manager as well, all using the graphical user interface, just simply clicking on a few buttons, entering a few fields, and letting the dApp provision the smart contract for us and associate all the modules to the token itself. So here we go. My Poly spent has been approved. Now I'm going to go next to the deployment and scheduling of my STO. So attaching the STO module to the security token and passing all the parameters as they've been defined here in the dApp. All right, so let's get MetaMask to wake up.
As we wait for that, I just want to kind of further what Thomas was saying about modules. So now that we're on Mainnet, what that means for the external developer community is that external developers can start building modules and making money from it. So if you're interested in learning how to build new modules with Polymath on the ecosystem, that issuers can eventually pay you for every time they'd use your module in an STO, you can check out our Medium article on creating modules for Polymath. I believe Adam wrote it. And if you have any questions about how the modules work or anything else related to Polymath, please hit us up on our Getter channel and we'll get back to you as soon as we can. I guess MetaMask hasn't caught up with my talk either.
No, it's I don't know if you guys have been experiencing this lately, but the Fox has been a little slow for me. So maybe it's just my machine. Maybe I need to upgrade. Maybe that should be my story. That's it. I need a faster machine. I need to upgrade. Here we go. There we go. Oh. All right. And yes, the transaction was approved, was it? Yes. Okay. So here we go. Deployment and scheduling is underway. Same thing, all the operations, you have the link here to Etherscan. So at any point in time, you can click and review. Or maybe not, depending on how fast your internet connection is. All right, let's go back while this loads. And so, with that operation now, I have my STO. It's scheduled. So all I will need to do from that point forward is update the whitelist. So as an issuer, I'm going to put up a portal where I can send all my investors. Those investors will have to go through a process of one being KYC'd, right? It's a regulatory requirement. I need to be able to report on all my issuers. I need to be able to tell who they are. So go through the KYC process. Once they have been KYC'd, they can go ahead and review all the offering document. They can sign all these offering documents. Once this is done, only then can they make the investment. And so what we've been doing, working closely with the issuers, is make sure that they had that tight integration into the whitelist. But what we've done as well, and that is the result of the collaboration that we've had with companies like Catapult, is effectively allow them to build modules that can be associated with the token, so that I can use the Catapult portal to get through that KYC and signing of the document process and have my address automatically added to the whitelist. So by the time I move on to the next step, which is confirming my investment, then I can make that investment without it being rejected, because the general transfer manager does not have a trace of my address. So, as Charles indicated, there's a bunch of modules that can be built around that. We've been working very closely with KYC providers to have that level of integration, to bring, a seamless integration between the KYC, which is a foundational process, and of knowing your customer, and the STO itself and the whitelisting of addresses. But there's obviously plenty of opportunities for the entire development community to build additional modules around that. So here we go. The miners are still mining. And so with that operation concluding, I'll be good to go. So perhaps I realized I ran far longer than originally anticipated. I think the mining took quite a bit longer than at least I thought. But that basically covers the dApp. The next screen that we'll see once that mining operation gets completed, which it hasn't yet, is the screen where I can update the whitelist, and then one where I can see, oh, here we go, one where I can see my my STO. So there we go, my STO is now scheduled. Let's close this and go back there. My internet connection is still slow. And eventually, when all the bytes make it through, all the bits make it through the pipe, we'll get to see the screen. All right, Charles, while that page refreshes, any questions coming up on the chat, or?
Yeah, there are actually quite a bit of questions, and I know we are over time, so if we don't get to all of them, please ask us in our Gitter channel. We'd be more than happy to answer your questions as soon as possible. As of now, I'll pick one just for you to kind of cover. The most recent one was, what does the investor portal look like, and is it built out?
So the investor portal is not built out. So right now it looks like the way a lot of products start, which is drawing on piece of paper and PowerPoint presentations and InVision and things like that, but it's not built out. So it looks like my connection actually dropped because even the browser couldn't access anything. Let's see if it's coming back now. While this happens, any other questions?
Yeah, there's one guy agreed with you about MetaMask being slow, and he said that his was as well. So that hopefully that makes you feel a little better. There were a couple questions that about when STOs are going to start and that kind of thing, but that might take a little longer to answer. So one person asked, it's more of a personal question. So why would my company want to use Polymath's platform instead of another security platform? Or
yeah, and so I mean, there's a couple of things, right? So first, when you look at Polymath, we've built all the smart contracts. We had all the smart contracts audited. It's not bespoke. It's effectively general purpose smart contracts that can be reused across a variety of razors. The second one is on the ecosystem itself, which is having that ability to tap into the ecosystem, get connected with advisors, get connected with law firms, get connected with KYCs. And so having that ecosystem to help you build your security token on an end-to-end basis. So I would say those would be the two bigger things. One is, you don't need to wait for the smart contracts to be built if the capabilities that you're looking for are the ones that are already available through the Polymath smart contract and through the dApp. Then you can literally create your token in, we say 15 minutes, although as you guys could see today, it can take a little bit longer depending on internet speed, MetaMask, how fast the Fox can run, and how fast the miners do their thing. And the second one is the strength of the ecosystem and having all these partners. And we continue to add new partners to the platform as well, there to help you do the fundraise, get investors, etc. And so I think my connection is officially down because I'm not going anywhere now.
Instead of waiting for the connection to get back, you could probably just say what happens from here, and then we can just cut it quits and say goodbye to all our followers.
Yeah, absolutely. So, you know, from that point, oh, that's, yeah, nice. From that point, basically, I have a screen that shows me, you know, that my STO is in progress, when the STO is going to start, when the STO is going to end, and how much of the fundraise I have successfully accomplished with my STO. So I can see the address of the smart contract and the status of my fundraise. And I have a separate page, which is the compliance page, that shows me how to update the whitelist. So I can download the existing whitelist. I can add new entries into the whitelist to continuously bring on new investors onto the platform. All right.
Awesome. So thanks again for everyone who attended the live webinar, and thanks Thomas for joining us on this special day. If you want to show this webinar to any of your friends, you can probably find it on our YouTube by the end of the day or tomorrow. And again, if you have any other further questions, please mention them on our Gitter channel, and we'll get back to you as soon as we can. That concludes our webinar for today. Thanks, guys.